I'm Ben Lepper, administrator here at Intersection Ministries, and I want to welcome you to today's Growing at Home devotional. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day today and maintaining the use of their face coverings while out in public. And it's interesting that face coverings, they give us a wonderful illustration about the words that Paul has for us today. So today, our text comes from the 14th chapter of the book of Romans, verse 13. The text says, "Therefore, let us not pass judgment on one another any longer, but rather decide never to put a stumbling block or hindrance in the way of a brother." Wonderful words that Paul has for us today, and words that are saturated with applicability. See, as Christians, we're told to avoid being stumbling blocks for other people. And right now, during COVID, a face covering helps keep our neighbors safe from the viral spread of COVID-19. But beyond this, we want to take a deeper look at how other things that we may be doing can present stumbling blocks to people in their walk of faith. Today, we're invited to take a moment and reflect on how it is that we speak to one another. The context of this verse, it's situated in a passage where Paul is teaching about dietary practices. Some members of the church in Rome had differing opinions regarding the crossover between the dietary practices of Jewish Christians and those of Gentile Christians. However, this principle has extensive applicability to topics outside of dietary practices, because implicit behind Paul's words is a reality that some in the Church of Rome believe that a Christian should behave one way, and that another faction believe Christians should behave in another way. And both factions in Rome believe that their understanding is endorsed by God, and that the opposing understanding is against God's will. So this creates this destructive rivalry in the church at Rome over the topic of dietary restrictions, where people are kind of going head to head, campaigning that their understanding is in fact the godly way for Christians to live, and that the opposing viewpoint is almost an anti-godly way for people to live. And this has direct correlation to our society today, because it's human nature for us to trust ourselves more than we trust other people, right? So consequently, we presuppose our own accuracy of understanding regarding scriptural and societal subject matter, while doubting the accuracy of people in opposition to us. Right, so we can speak out of this presupposed understanding, and the things that we say can easily become stumbling blocks for people who are on their own journey of faith. And Paul, right here, he's encouraging the church in Rome to refrain from passing judgment on one another. And I think Paul's words for us today should really help inform us that we should be hesitant to declare what God himself finds to be appropriate to other people. As Christians, we should be hesitant to speak for God himself. See, when we declare people to be evil or misled or stupid or idiots or dumb or any of the other slurs that we use when we talk about opposing viewpoints that we're invested in, we're simultaneously declaring to the world that Christians are people who have very little room for differing opinions about how to live. We alienate our fellow Christians and we destroy our witness to the rest of the world. See, it's very hard for us to kind of escape this game, though, because the words that we use reflect normal expectations of social dialogue today. And one of those expectations is our internal feelings kind of compose our own moral compass, and that the words we use when talking about issues reflect our comfort level regarding our own moral compass and the way we feel about choices that other people make. We kind of either fall into this tendency to endorse those choices as good, as appropriate, as perhaps Christian choices, or condemn them as bad, as destructive, as anti-Christian choices. And in this process, we broadcast to the world that Christians are in the business of judgment and not the ministry of reconciliation. See, as Christians, we're called to set about the work of reconciling the world to God and reconciling God's children to each other. And painting people as God's enemies or our own enemies is antithetical to this mission. If I tell someone they are my enemy, what I've done is just create an enemy. I have paralyzed reconciliation. However, if I tell someone that they are God's enemy, what I've done is paralyze salvation itself. So some questions that we can think about as we go along with our day today. Is it possible that I have alienated someone through my judgments about them? Moving on, how can I make less space for my own voice and input in people's lives, thereby creating more space for the Holy Spirit to speak into people's lives? And finally, is it possible that I'm more likely to resort to fighting to uphold my beliefs than I am to resorting to friendship to uphold those same beliefs? Friends, thank you for tuning in today. If you haven't already, please feel free to give this YouTube channel a subscribe and like us on Facebook and Instagram. And we here at Intersection Ministries just want to wish you a blessed, very blessed, and safe day.